Hello, I'm Toycat and welcome back to the second channel Geography video. This is Evan's favorite series where I talk about geography and the world and stuff. And today I'm going to be talking about geography in the literal sense of the word a bit more, because although what I usually cover on this channel is geography, you know, countries and cities and fun facts about those places, what a lot more people consider to be geography when they just hear the term is like, oh yeah, valleys and mountains and rivers and geographical terms. And although, you know, to me that's not usually quite so interesting, in today's video I wanted to cover something that really bugs me and that I really wanted to talk about in like a bunch of different videos, but I figure like, let's not derail it to talk about that. But today I'm going to make a whole video, so it's not being derailed, to talk about the term Great Britain. So because we're talking about real geography, we'll use the Google Earth view here. So as you can see, no Mercator projection ruining this one right here. But today we're going to be talking about the island of Great Britain, as well as the political term Great Britain, as well as the Great Britain in terms of like sports and stuff, because there's three separate terms for Great Britain, and Great Britain isn't Great Britain isn't Great Britain. They're very distinct, and you might be like, what does that really matter? But it is something that matters, and today I want to talk mostly about the Great Britain geography term, because then that geography term, because then that turns into like, oh yeah, what islands are considered Great Britain but actually aren't, because there's lots of fascinating islands attached to the UK, or the three countries of England, Wales and Scotland, which I wanted to talk at least some amount about in some video, so here we are to do that. So let's first of all talk about Team GB in terms of the sports term and sometimes the country code term, because GB is one of the other like kind of acronyms for the UK, but the UK, if you don't know, actually stands for, or it's a short name for, the United Kingdom of Great Britain and Northern Ireland, i.e. Great Britain, which refers to in that case England, Wales and Scotland. Not entirely incorrect, you know, not entirely correct, but like kind of close to the truth, because these have their own elements attached to that. But now let's just say it's those three countries plus Northern Ireland. So when Team GB is used to mean that, it means all four of these countries, or three countries plus territory, but then also all the crown possessions. So the Isle of Man is technically on part of Team GB. In fact, one of them won a medal at the Olympics recently, and also any overseas territory that belongs to the UK is competing under Team GB, which is really confusing because the Falkland Islands, again, that is part of the UK overseas territories. The South Georgia Sandwich Islands, they're part of it too. And then most interestingly, Antarctica. So if you were born in Antarctica, again, not a real thing right now, but if you were born in Antarctica and you competed in the Olympics, you'd be competing for Team GB, which I can't think of more, you know, many more inaccurate terms to say Antarctica is GB, but that's something that you get with the Team GB thing when it comes to the Olympics. So yeah, Team GB and GB and everything like that, it's usually just another word for the United Kingdom. It's not quite a real thing, but the political term Great Britain is one that does get mixed up a lot to just kind of mean like, oh yeah, that must mean England, Scotland and Wales, and it's kind of close. And again, it's like the two terms are very close. If there was a Venn diagram, they'd have mostly overlap, but the thing is the political term to just use it to describe England, Scotland and Wales is not entirely accurate, because the geographical term Great Britain refers to this island right here, the main landmass on which they're all situated, because if you consider these to be three separate countries, they're the only countries on this island, and they all have a land border, or England has a land border with both the other countries, and that's how this island is set up. By the way, Great Britain is the largest island in Europe, on Europe, in the European continent. As you can see right here, it's actually pretty darn huge. Like, you know, on some maps it's kind of understated its real size in relation to the continent, but it is actually huge. There's a massive amount of landmass here, and that's a reason, well, arguably, why there's some success there. But yeah, let's talk a little bit more about Great Britain, because, like I said, so now we've gathered it's the largest of the islands, but it's the largest of the islands in the British Isles. So the British Isles is a controversial term for a billion reasons. Let's just use it because it's the generally accepted term for all of these islands right here. There's about 6,000 islands covered by it. The reason it's about 6,000, because I was curious about that too, is because the definition of island isn't exactly, you know, there's some tricky like half-case islands, but in today's video I do want to talk about 6,000 islands because that's not interesting. Let's just talk about the main ones and then talk about the inhabited ones of the Great Britain political term that aren't part of Great Britain, the geographical term. So you can know about things that aren't Great Britain, that are Great Britain. Again, confusing, but I want to talk about some islands. Let's get into that. But let's just quickly mention that, like, the other big islands. So Great Britain is about 2/3 of the landmass of all the 6,000 British Isles. Just this one island. It's a pretty big one. But then Ireland is the other largest part of the landmass, which contains the country of Ireland. So there's the island of Ireland, including the country of Ireland, which is about 5/6 of that. And then, by the way, I know British people say Ireland and Ireland really similar. I do it as well, but like I hope I'm distinguishing between Ireland with an R and island, like the term that a thing that floats on the sea. So the island, the thing that floats in the sea that contains Ireland, is about 5/6 taken up by them, and about 1/6 taken up by Northern Ireland, which again belongs to the United Kingdom and is therefore part of Team GB, but not GB in terms of politics or GB in terms of geographic. Boom, sorted. So now we got that sorted. There's also the Isle of Man, other crown dependencies that aren't part of the UK, aren't part of England, Wales and Scotland, but are kind of part of the UK and are owned by the Crown, which whole own thing, but they're part of GB too. So even these islands right here technically are part of it. There's a lot of other weird islands that are self-governing and self-dependent, but a part of that. But now let's talk about the parts of England, Wales, and Scotland that aren't attached to Great Britain, but are considered part of Great Britain by being part of England, Wales, or Scotland. So Wales only has 6 islands, the most notable being Anglesey up here, where there's a lot of Welsh spoken, where you can take the ferry to Dublin if you want to. Did a whole video on Wales recently, so we won't talk about it too much. Then England, just down here. So England is the largest of the countries by land and massively the largest by population. Actually has 19 islands. Again, populated islands. We're not covering the 6,000 islands, but there's 6 islands in Wales. There's 19 in England, and notably of those islands, there is the Isle of Sheppey over here. So as you can see, this is the Isle of Sheppey, and most places look green from above, like it's not too exciting to zoom in on. But yeah, this is the Isle of Sheppey, and the interesting thing about this island, in my opinion, is the fact that, one, it's only barely connected to the rest of the land. Again, there's like 2 bridges going across it, one of which is huge, by the way. So if I show you on the map right here, there is a huge bridge connecting it, like a giant, like, it looks like a, you know, like an American motorway style thing, but that's just a thing you get in the south of England. But then as well as having this like huge road connecting to this island, there's also one of the least used stations in the whole of the UK, or at least the least used station in Kent, Swale right here. So that's a nice name for a station, right? But then as well as that, the Isle of Sheppey has one of the interesting distinctions of being one of the very few parts of the UK to be conquered in the past 900 years. It was temporarily not conquered, but like held by the Dutch during like 1660. It was like just over 400 years ago, it was held by the Dutch, which is interesting because, again, the UK hasn't been invaded in so long, because it's almost impossible to, but the Dutch managed to take this island right here, so that counts for something, right? I mean, that's an interesting little fact. The tiniest part of England, they used to be, well, it didn't used to be Dutch for very long, they just kind of held it, like, militarily, but still kind of fascinating. Also, the most populated island in the whole of the you know, the British Isles that isn't Great Britain or Ireland is actually Portsea Island. So this is Portsmouth. A lot of Portsmouth takes place here. It doesn't really look like an island on the map because it's connected now by road and stuff, but this is the most populated island and it's pretty much covered in stuff. So in stark contrast, that island that was just green, as you can see, like real city stuff, like metropolitan areas going on here. Isn't that exciting? And then the biggest island that's like, or at least, yeah, it's the biggest island and also the biggest constituency in terms of population is the Isle of Wight. So the Isle of Wight is a very deprived place in lots of ways. Again, they suffer from the real crisis of being like part of the UK, but like not being connected direct to the UK besides any way other than ferry, which means they have a lot of like issues of poverty and whatnot. But because there's like a big revival of like going to do like a culture trip and like seeing heritage and stuff like that, the Isle of Wight's doing pretty okay these days. Again, it's fascinating because they have about 110,000 people there, 50% more population than any other place and any other constituency. Even though they're trying to balance those, and they legally have to, just how they divide this island up politically is tricky. So it's the least represented per person island or really place in the whole of the UK, which by the way is the opposite to the next place we're talking about, which is the Western Isles. So the Western Isles are the most represented place in all of the UK, with 5 times fewer electorate in their constituency. So if you live here, you get 5 times the say with your MP. Again, it's indirect, so it's not really, but you get 5 times the say in terms of your MP, and therefore in the makeup of the House of Commons by living here. Like literally, the you know, the top winning vote person is like 5,000. That's a very technical term there. The top vote winning person has about 5,000 votes here. Currently, it's a very high person in the SNP, but it's like a close seat. So like your vote really counts here. It's like one of the most powerful in the country. Just by living on one of these Western Isles. Again, when you look at Scotland, you can see how Scotland is very island-filled because Wales has 6 islands, England has like 19 populated islands, and then Scotland has 97. So you can really tell there's a significant pop-up there. Again, we're talking about populated only. You might be like, it's like 6,000. No, just populated. I don't care if no one lives there. So yeah, but interestingly, even though it has 97 islands, 4 of those islands have a population of 1. So is it populated if one person lives there? I don't know, you tell me. So that number is probably going to go down because those people are probably going to die and no one's going to go to an island with no one on it. And then out of those islands, 20 have a population of 10 or less. It's actually really crazy how low the population can get on these Scottish Isles. There's an example such as Fowler over here. Fowler is a island. Again, look, this is Fowler right here. They have an airport and they have a primary school, and pretty much nothing else shows on Google Maps. Oh, a post office. So their population is, according to this BBC article, about 32. And the funny thing about it is there's only 1 pupil at that school, because when you have a population of 32 and you need to school your kids, there is 1 pupil going to this primary school right now. It's it's got 18 reviews on Google Maps. So there's only one pupil going to this primary school. So when they need a teacher there, they're paying for a teacher for one student, which is nuts to me, but that's a real thing. The reason for that, by the way, is because to even get to this island, there's a 15-minute flight to get to Orkney, which again we'll talk about in a second, and then you have to take a ferry from there to get to the mainland. Oh man, you can see my other YouTube channel in the background. So my bad. I like extended up the windows right there. But anyway, let's go back to this. So, basically, this is Fowler, and to get there from anyone else, it's pretty tricky because basically Scotland has lots of remote islands. It has this issue of like, even though Scotland itself is like that renegade place from England, a lot of the Scotland islands are like Scotland in a way. Like even the Highlands is Scotland, where like they're even more rural, they're even more disconnected and stuff like that. And interestingly, because I've gone over the Western Isles already, and there's a bunch of other interesting islands around here. Again, you can see them; they're all loosely connected in some way or another. Interestingly, if you're thinking I'm talking too factually and you're like, Toycat, chill, give us a nice easy story again. The Isle of Arran over here, I spoke to someone who was Scottish for quite some time. They lived in Glasgow, and they said they went to the Isle of Arran quite a bit because it was nice. So there's the least objective, most subjective, and most, I guess, just personable fact you could ever know. Isle of Arran, recommended by one Scottish person. So yeah, let's talk about the Orkney Islands and the Shetland Islands now, because I think these islands are so fascinating. I brought them up in a video like 6 months ago because they're parts of Scotland that really don't, they feel Scottish in some way, but they're really not Scottish in a lot of other ways. So first of all, their geographic location. So this is the Orkney Islands here. Again, there's lots of islands. They all combine together to make the Orkney Islands, and these are the Shetland Islands here, including Fowler and its primary school. Again, one pupil in a school. There's a lot of schools like that, by the way. Our Skerries in the Shetland Islands. Again, when you have lots of islands and lots of those islands have like 10 people, you're going to have one school primary students. And because that's still the responsibility of the council, they have to pay, again, you saw that in the article, what was it, £49,133. I looked on the thing, I know we're going way off on this teacher thing, but look, there's 35 hours per week, and you get paid 49 grand I'm just saying, I'm tempted. Maybe I could teach them geography or something. I mean, badly, whatever. But anyway, let's talk about the islands. So yeah, as you can see, both of these sets of islands are closer to Oslo, the capital of Denmark, than they are to the capital of the UK, London. So as you can see, that is 778 kilometers. It's tricky to see on this view, whereas the distance to London is 785, again, roughly. Actually, it's a little bit more. It's about 800. So the Orkney Islands are closer to Oslo, and the other islands, as you can see, it's about 1,000, kilometers to London, whereas to Oslo, it's just 650, which is really crazy, the fact that they're part of Scotland and then part of the UK, and in a lot of ways, they actually are more Nordically influenced than they are other stuff. For instance, if you look at their flags, so we've got 3 flags. Okay, so let me just show you the flags here. As you can see, so let's click that one instead. As you can see, if you look at the council area flags, this is the flag of Caithness, which is the far top part of Scotland, this part right here, like very, very close to those islands. Again, has the Scandinavian cross that is emblematic of being Scandinavian in some way. If you look at the flag of Orkney, again, Scandinavian cross, looks a lot like Denmark's flag, but like, Oslo... Norway's flag, slightly more like that. And then we've got the flag of Shetland, which as you can see, like all of these flags, very Nordic, because they feel a little bit Nordic in their own little way. And in fact, when there was, even though they vote for, because they're both part of the Shetland and Orkney constituency in the UK. It's protected. It has to stay that way. They voted very differently to the rest of Scotland. They voted for Lib Dem people the whole time. And when there was a referendum on Scotland's independence, they were the heaviest voting no. In fact, to go even further back than that, because them and politics is a very strange thing, back in the referendum to join the EU, way back when in the 70s, they were the only part of the UK that voted no. They interestingly voted yes to stay in the EU afterwards, but still, like this place is just very different to the rest of Scotland, and if Scotland is to secede, they'll likely come back and join the UK or be a crown. They're going to leave Scotland in their own way, in some way. It's very likely, which is, again, it's weird that like Scotland has its own Scotland, right? And yeah, that's this place right here. So interestingly, just while we're talking about this place, because Shetland is very rich, by the way. So let's go back to our nice, lovely geography map. So Shetland is very rich from having oil. Like they discovered it in the 70s, doing very well from that. I heard a big story from a guy. So one of the 4J Studios people, they make the console version of Minecraft, which I play a lot. So because I go there and I spoke to him a bunch about it, and he's like, oh yeah, they just discovered it, and now they're all kind of rich. So isn't that lovely? And it does sound lovely, doesn't it? And they also have ponies. So Shetland ponies, one pupil primary schools, and oil money. That's how you summarize these islands. Also, being more close to literally, they're more close to Iceland than they are to, to London. But yeah, then we've got the Orkney Islands, which are a lot closer to the rest of the UK. Still were occupied by the Danish / the Norwegians until like the 15th century. Like fairly recently, actually belonged to the Danish / Norwegian. Again, they were very interlinked then. Yeah, interestingly enough, they have the shortest commercial flight in the world, which is between, so if we go to this map right here, which is between Westray and Papa Westray. So Papa Westray is an island with about 80 people living there. Westray is an island with about 500 people living there. And because, you know, it's like one of those legally mandated flights, they do these in a lot of countries, including America, by the way, which is weird to me. But yeah, basically they do legally mandated flights between these two places. And let me show you on, you know, the map, like the measure distance thing, just the distance between these two places. Oh, is it? It's 3.95 kilometers. It's a 2-minute scheduled flight. They go up and then they come down, and it's one of the it's one of the most ridiculously short flights in the world. And the only reason they do it is because it's the cheapest way to do that. Like a ferry doesn't make sense there, so they have a flight 4 times a week between Papa Westray and between Westray. They're eventually going to build a bridge just because even once you're there, you have to then take a ferry again. It's one of those weird things, but like living on one of these islands is just so remote and different to anything else that I'm used to, and that's that I'm used to and that most of you used to, and it's just one of those fascinating little things. So before we end today's video, there's just 2 more things I want to go through. I'm just making sure that we didn't run on too long here. First of all, we've got the Faroe Islands up here, which look like they're a part of Scotland. They're actually a part of Denmark, which, I mean, it's weird to me. Like, Greenland being part of Denmark, I know is weird to everyone, but the Faroe Islands being part of Denmark, even though, because they're Faroese people, they're very distinct from Denmark, they're Danish people. They were owned by the Norwegians for some point, at some point, and then the Danish kind of took it when they took Norway. Again, like a lot of other things, like these islands. But basically, yeah, they're closer to Norway than they are to, so they're closer to Norway than they are to Denmark. They're closer to Scotland than they are to Denmark. They're even closer to Iceland than they are to Denmark, and even like Sweden, which is weird enough. So yeah, basically my point being is there's these weird islands. They look like they're Scottish, because these don't look like they're Scottish, really, but if you consider them to be Scottish, you'd accept that these are Scottish too, but no, this isn't Scottish. Also, I'm going to go here at some point. I don't know when, like, it's one of those, like, I'd love to go here things, because if you look on the map, there's, like, a famous float, this place right here, there's, like, a perfect view you can find, I hope I can find it on Google Maps, where there's the lake that looks like it's flowing off the cliff. So this is not that perfect view, but there is one around here, where you can see just perfectly. Okay, I think this is it. It looks like there is a lake which should flow off the cliff. Well, this is the highest resolution photo I could show you, apparently. But yeah, basically, this is still not quite there. But yeah, it's right next to the airport, and like, there's the airport, and then not a bunch else. Is this the view? There you go, that's almost the view. Like, we're close. But there's a lake which looks like it's flowing off a cliff. I'll record a video there sometime, and you'll be like, I remember that. I saw that in a Toycat video. Speaking of places I'm going, a lot of people watched my Bulgaria video, and were like, Toycat, you need to come here, and now that's like a common comment. So if you want to know where I'm going, 1, I'm going to The Hague at some point in the next 2 or 3 weeks. Actually, probably at some point in the next week. I'm going to do, like, this is a fun video, or maybe it won't be a video, but, like, it's a fun idea that I might turn into a video. Going to The Hague, I don't know why I said The Hague. I'm pretty sure it's The Hague. Going to The Hague for a day, but, like, less than a day, like, have a flight at 10 a.m., have a flight back at, like, 6 p.m., so that'd be, what, like, 7 hours, and probably a bit less, like, 5 hours in the Netherlands. I think that'd be kind of a fun idea. And then also, I'm going to be going to Prague at the start of October. So if you're curious the next country that I've never been to before, that I'm going to next, because I'm going to every EU country, Prague is up next. They use the, it's called the Corona. I don't actually know enough about their country. The Corona. It's very similar to the name of the Croatian currency, by like pure coincidence right there, which is the Kruna, Kuna, whatever. And my point being is there's countries I'm going to, Czechia, the Netherlands I've already been to, but I'm going again. And I also go to Germany maybe like once a month, twice a month. So there you go. There's where I'm going to. Now you know, if you're curious, if you wanted to know the answer to the questions, like where am I going? Czechia, which is going to be fun. And I'll make a video on it afterwards maybe. And also The Hague. I'll maybe make like a full vlog if you want to see that. But for now, Great Britain isn't Great Britain, isn't Great Britain, isn't Great Britain, but it is Great Britain in some ways. Hope you'll enjoy the video, because I'll see you in the next one. Second channel, don't care, F9.